I think what YouTube really needs is more wildly unqualified people giving golf tips and golf advice. So here's me throwing my hat in the ring. Alright, I'm Craig and this is Diary of an Angry Scottish Golfer. In this week's video, what I've decided to do is to make a video about bunker play. But I've always shied away from doing tip videos in the past because I feel like I'm unqualified and I'm not a pro, so I'll preface this at the start. I'm not a pro, I'm not qualified, so take everything I say with a pinch of salt. The reason I'm doing this tip video is primarily because I can make a saucy thumbnail and I can say just the tip. And I'm very childish in that way. I've improved my bunker play quite significantly over the last maybe 6 months to a year, to the point where I've actually had people ask me some questions about it when I've been playing with them. I didn't used to be very comfortable in the bunker, and now I'm pretty confident in getting up and down. And I think with a few tips that I learned, certainly there was one in particular, which is going to be the last tip that I give. Try and keep that video retention. Significantly improve my bunker play. So I'm just going to share 3 tips with a bonus at the end. We'll do a little bunker challenge, and hopefully you get something out of it. Hopefully you improve your bunker play. If you don't, I don't really care. Anyway, I have clipped my golf brush to my trousers for ease of use with the old club cleaning. That's really how all the cool kids do it, right? So the first of the 3 tips is going to be a setup position. What I would say is setup is something that you get for free. There's not really any athleticism involved. There's no reason why, barring obviously physical disabilities or anything, that you can't really have a world-class setup. It's kind of something that probably is neglected. If you could, I would say on any type of shot, if you could click a button and you were in the absolute perfect optimal setup, I honestly think you'd save like 3-4 shots around. Like if your alignment was always spot on, ball position always spot on. So these things add up, and it's stuff you get for free. So the first tip is going to be to nail your setup. So used to be the case, certainly when I was growing up, that you used to get told to aim miles left of the target, open the club face loads, and then pick it up and cut. I'll use that camera. Pick it up and cut massively across the line, which was like proper old school mentality of just pick it up, cut across it. It works. Like you can get, that was actually a reasonable shot. You can get a reasonable shot outcome out of it, but you have to put so much power into it, and it's not consistent. From certainly my research into it, that technique was developed back in the day when they had old golf clubs, old golf balls, and all that sort of shit. When bounce certainly wasn't maybe as widely understood or researched or what have you, but anyway, this is meant to be a quick tip video, so I digress, as all my videos tend to do. So, setup. Well, what does it look like then? So, contrary to what was taught back in the day, it would be setting up parallel to your target line. So setting up straight at the target. So if we say that's straight, roughly, to where I'm going, I would be looking to set up along that line. Okay, so straight first of all. And in terms of width, you want your driver stance, is a good way to think about it. So it's going to be slightly wider than normal along that line. Obviously you would bury your feet in depending on the sand conditions. Front foot 45 degrees pointing towards the target, and then your knee get flexed over that. You want to maintain forward weight pressure, a good amount of weight into that front foot. You also want to stand a little bit further away from the ball, because what you're going to do is you're going to open the club face to approximately, say, 30 degrees. You can remember in school Pythagoras' theorem, the old 45 degrees. You know what 30 degrees is. So opening the club face adds 2 things for bunkers. You want to add loft, and it also increases bounce. Not going to get into bounce because there's a lot of chat on that, but basically it helps you in the sand, right? Because you're not going to hit the ball, you're going to hit the sand first. Bounce glides through the sand, makes it easier. So we've taken our driver stance width, we're lined up straight, our foot's pointed out, weight forward. We're a little bit further away, and we also want our hands to go a little bit further down. When you do open the face, lowering your hands does help keep it on line or what have you. And the last thing you want to do is you want to get the shaft, depending on how you want to think about it, the shaft running straight up and down to your belt buckle, or intersecting the ball, good word, intersecting the ball at the very back. So not in front, at the back of the ball. So if I was to draw a straight line, it'd be right into the back of the golf ball. For me, I have to be very conscious of this because my trigger is a forward press. So I can almost overdo it because I'll forward press and it'll go back to normal. So that is a good setup. You're now in a world-class setup. The second tip is to really maintain your weight on this front foot. Maintain flexion in this foot. Stay on your left-hand side. Think of this as helping out by not helping out. Or I think a lot of people's instincts are certainly higher handicappers, which is pretty much who this is going to be aimed at. If you struggle getting the ball out of the bunker in terms of you just panic about it or you leave the ball in the bunker, this is who this video is aimed at. If you're off +5 and you're sitting here thinking this guy's a knob, doesn't have a clue what he's doing, you're right. I am a knob. And I don't have a clue what I'm doing. But yeah, so think of it as helping out by not helping out. Most people, what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to shift back to this left-hand side and they're going to want to feel like they're adding loft and they're trying to help the ball up in the air. There is, for me, I'm using a 54 degree. I'm opening it and lowering my hands. There's at least 60 plus degrees of loft there. That's more than enough. So I don't need to be helping it. I need to be staying down so that I've got a solid base and I can hit through the sand. So a good drill is to walk through the shot so you're really staying left. Really keep your weight on that front foot. I think Gary Player was known for being a really good bunker player. Now he's just kind of known for being a bit of a knob. But he used to always talk about that. Walking through the shot. Walk, foot weight on the left side. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, this is a very personal one. So the first 2 are pretty standard things. It's probably, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 nuggets of information with setup, I'm hoping, you'll probably have a bit of an idea for the first 2 things. This third one is a tip that I have found myself. It's not something I've been taught, it's just generally the way that my bunker play is improved. So a really good drill is to draw a straight line in the sand, get your really good setup, and work your way down the line, trying to see where you hit the sand. So that one was actually all right there before. Maybe you're hitting too far back, too far forward. So you want to start trying to consistently strike the sand in the same place. So then you transition that to the ball and you're consistently striking the sand in the same place and you're hitting relatively similar shots. Anyway, as with everything I like to talk about, I digress. So my point is, I was doing this drill a lot and I wasn't ever very good at it until I adopted this certain way of thinking. So for short game, with chipping and pitching and everything, really you want the low point to be as long as possible. If you imagine a plane coming into land, it wouldn't just nosedive straight down. It tries to be smooth. The way I think about it is with letters, like a U, the bottom half of it covers quite a lot of the ground, as it were, whereas a V, there's a really small portion of the ground that it touches. The point I'm trying to make, probably not very well, is if you swing like short game with a U and you want to cover this long portion of the ground, for me, I was finding I was hitting the ground, hitting the sand too low, too early, and I was getting it out because the rest of the fundamentals are pretty good, but it wasn't really very consistent in terms of spin, it wasn't stopping. And one of the great things about good bunker play is you start hearing that slap with the bounce hitting the sand. Whereas when I started thinking about having more of a V type impact, so picking it up a bit steeper and trying to slam it down on that line, as opposed to sweeping it, I started to get a bit better sand, a bit better contact. So perfect setup, weight ahead, and the third tip is to pick it up a little bit steeper and try and imagine that V slamming down on the line. That was a pretty good shot. So that's 3 tips to better bunker play, right? Those are the 3 keys that will get you playing much better bunker shots. This 4th tip was something that once I integrated into my own game, I found that I got miles better really quickly, and I got an understanding of what I need to be doing. So oftentimes you hear in short game about maintaining the bounce, maintaining the loft on the shot. It's really important in bunker play especially, but it's hard. I always found it hard to relate it to my game until I found this next tip. So tip number 4, bonus tip, is for maintaining cupping in your left wrist, or if you're left-handed, that would be your right wrist, but your lead wrist, I guess. Maintaining cupping, because what that does is it increases loft on the shot. I'll explain it in a little bit more detail, and this perhaps will go over some people's heads, but try and bear with me, because when it was explained to me, I thought I'm going to just ignore that piece of information because it's a load of shite, and then when I actually understood it, it made a massive difference. So when you cup your wrist in the backswing, I used to think that meant going from 0 to 90, like picking it up that way. That's not the case. What you really want to be doing is imagining with your lead wrist that in the backswing you're revving a motorcycle. So I get to go into the taking the club back, and I'm revving a motorcycle. So my knuckles are turning up the way, they're turning forwards, however you want to think about it. They're turning this way. What that's doing is that's opening the club, maintaining the bounce, maintaining the loft, however you want to think about it. So that's what you want to be doing in your backswing. I'm not going to give a huge amount of technical advice on the actual swing itself, but that's certainly one key factor that you want to do. A way to feel this, which is one of the keys that really helped me, is if you put some sand on the club face. Hope you can see that on one of these two cameras. If you put some sand on the club face and you just do your backswing that you would usually do, probably use this camera, hope I'm in camera. You do your backswing, oh, the sand fell off. Oh shit. What that means is you've not maintained the loft, because if you maintain the loft correctly, aka you turn your wrist to the sky, you can throw the sand over your shoulder. So that's a good drill. That's like the drill that really made a huge impact. So I would go back, throw that over my shoulder. Not dropping it, because then I've decreased the bounce. Plane. Hopefully you can still hear me. Plane. So we don't want to drop that angle, because then the sand will fall off. So we want to keep the sand on, throw it over our right shoulder. That's what good cupping, good cupping's probably something else, but that's one type of good cupping that we want. And it works the same way on the through swing as well. So that, keeping it over your right shoulder, and then as you go through, throwing it over your left shoulder. Basically, rev your motorbike and keep it revved through the golf swing. Once I implemented that move, I started to hear that nice slap noise that you want in bunkers. So to summarize everything, my 3 tips plus bonus tip if you stayed around this long. Anyway, your good setup, your driver width, ball position slightly forward, the shaft's intersecting at the back. I'm all the way over here with my weight. So I want to get that knee flexed right over my front foot. And then what I want to do is I want to rev my motorbike on the way back with a nice V angle of attack. Keeping my weight, rev, slap. Pops out with not really much fuss. I hope that helps. If it doesn't, go see your pro. That's probably the advice I would give you. Anyway, let's try a little challenge. So I've set up another camera down there to capture the shots. Hello. So the challenge is, and this is also a good way to practice, is the idea of making your rehearsal, your homework, your revision harder than the exam itself. So one way to make it harder is to use different clubs. For me, I'd probably mostly use a 54 degree in the sand. maybe very occasionally a 58 if it's really, really close pin. So by hitting some shots with a 7-iron, and then also, if I can do it, a 4-iron, that's going to be the real test. Then you really know that you're building a pretty robust technique. I have done this before and I was able to get 4-iron out, but a bit of pressure, right? So I'm going to hit 2 shots with the 7-iron, 2 shots with the 4-iron to this flag here, this yellow flag, and we'll see how it goes. I'll pick the golf ball up, I'll throw it up in the air, and we'll get a lie like that. The goal really, in front of you guys, is to not leave any in the sand. Because that's what I'm hoping you'll get out of this video, is you'll be a bit more confident if you're someone who maybe leaves it in the sand or you worry about leaving it in the sand, is by implementing what we chatted through, you won't. So challenge begins. So 7-iron. So the principles are the same. The only thing I'm going to do differently is just exaggerate everything because I've got less loft. So I'm really pointing it behind, which really opens the face, and I'm really lowering it, which means I need to get lower as well. I've still got my driver set up. Okay, fingers crossed. Rev my motorbike, see if it works. Oh! It did go out, which I guess is a win. It's miles away from the flag. Wasn't the best lie. The sand's kind of wet, which makes this a lot harder. Alley-oop. That maybe looks a little bit better. So hopefully it'll be a little bit of a better shot. Use my trusty gimpy tilt. Right. Let's try and be a little bit better than that one, but it got out, so counting that as a win. Throw that sand over your shoulder, Craig. Come on. Sit. I hit the fucking other ball. 2 out. 2 out, which I'll take. So again, I mean, not great shots, but it's a 7-iron to like a splash bunker shot. It's not going to be amazing. 4-iron. Again, just exaggerating all the things that we chatted through. See if we can get it out. So, again, this sand is absolutely soaking because it's been raining loads today, which doesn't make this a lot easier. So I'm just going to really exaggerate everything. Come on. Cup that. Stay left. Splash. It's out. Again, it's miles away. But I'm not making this easier for myself with the wet sand. But you know what? I'll take it. So the last one to win the challenge. Let's see if I can maybe give myself a bit powdery sand. It's landed in the footprint. Can you still see that? Probably not. This is not sitting good. A bit more of the bunker to cover. So this could be the hardest one yet. Come on, Craig. This is definitely going to be the hardest one. Oh, striped. Shot over the back. Right, so the shots weren't great, but I managed to successfully complete the challenge. Have a go at that stuff, if you're so inclined. And yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out.